lupa. Since 1960, we have been trying to contribute to the nation by developing and optimizing the potential of the people through education. Every year, more than 7,000 new students from within the country and abroad enroll in UAD. With innovation, technology and creativity that are based on intellectual and moral integrity, perfected by Islamic values, we create a comfortable and stimulating learning atmosphere. The public trust in us is proven by the increasing number of new students from year to year. Currently, there are more than 26,000 active students from various regions of the country. Our continuous internationalization efforts are shown with the distribution of foreign students at our university from various countries. The high-achieving climate developed at the campus supports our chosen students to compete in various competitions, both at national and international levels. We equip students with the required experience to participate in various international cooperation programs through joint degree, double degree, short course, summer camp, and competition programs at international level. As a Muhammadiyah higher education institution, we make Al-Islam and Kemuhammadiyahan as the foundation for our campus life. Fun learning with various activities are promoted to develop the potentials and interests of the students. The students' organizations and 3 Muhammadiyah autonomic organizations that we offer are the best choice for students to channel their interest and potentials both in academic and non-academic activities. With the increasingly fast technological advances, we improve the quality of our internet connection for comfortable online learning through e-learning, as well as for various payment and tuition transactions. We have a smart room that can integrate all campus management information system that is displayed on executive dashboard system, making it convenient for immediate decision making and providing fast and optimum services for lecturers, educational staff, students, and their guardians. Besides, we can also carry out social media analysis, teleconference, or online meeting. With more than 750 competent educators with the best qualification in their fields. Since 2017, we have been accredited A by the National Accreditation Board for Higher Education. Besides, we also managed to record a variety of notable achievements. We are working to provide quality education with the best learning system for our students. Now, we have 11 faculties and 52 study programs for both undergraduate and postgraduate programs. Adequate facilities, friendly services, professional educators are our focus. Comfortable classrooms, integrated laboratories, amphitheater with 3D facilities and smart presentation, observatory, as well as libraries with complete collection are utilized to support students' learning activities. Education, research, and community service are the main objective for higher education. In terms of research, we are trying to create a conducive research climate. We are also working to encourage lecturers to continue improving their research to produce a variety of innovations that are aimed to benefit the society through appropriate and efficient technology. Our target in scientific publication in the form of books, publication in accredited national journals or reputable international journals continues to experience a significant increase. with 78 journals in various fields of science, 33 Sinta accredited journals, 3 of which are Scopus Index. UAD is the first and only Muhammadiyah higher education institution with 3 reputable international Scopus Index journals. Moreover, UAD also records an achievement in the field of community service by getting recognition and transforming from very satisfactory cluster to a superior cluster. We built a strong network with various institutions, organizations, and universities proven with various track records in national and international cooperations. The cooperations established promote activities in the fields of education, research and community service with seminars, workshop, publications, and various other programs. We are forging multi-year cooperation with the European Union Erasmus Plus through the capacity building for higher education program in the development of entrepreneurship and disaster management. Alumni are valuable assets for a university. For that, we are continuously improving the quality of our graduates. To know the competency of our graduates as workers, we conduct a treasure study by maximizing the participation of alumni through Kamada, Alumni Associations of Universitas Ahmad Dahlan. For the development of science-based business economy, we have a number of business units: PT Adi Multi Energi, PT Adi Multi Kalibrasi, PT BPRS Karanakiat Andalas, PT Adi Multi Husada, PT Adi Multi Teknologi, PT Adi Multi Property, PT Adi Multi Boga, and PT Adi Multimedia.
All right, thank you. The host, thank you so much. Hello, man. Should we start, man? Hello. Kita mulai. Hello, Ahmad. Can you hear me? Hello, Ahmad. Can you hear me?
Welcome to the English Education Department of Universitas Ahmad Dahlan, Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Our vision is to become an excellent and globalized English education department with Islamic values. We educate the students to have readiness to compete in the global era with knowledge and skills which are compatible with the civilizations of 21st century and the 4.0 industrial revolution. To achieve the vision, we provide our institutions with high-skilled staffs, relevant and up-to-date curriculum, and modern infrastructure within a conducive academic atmosphere. We invite all young generations from all over Indonesia and also from other countries to study in the English Education Department, Universitas Ahmad Dahlan, which is located in Yogyakarta, the city of education, city of culture, and city of tourism.
Dear student, I am one of the lecturer in English Department Ahmad Dahlan University. Besides being a lecturer, I also become the director of the international program of Ahmad Dahlan University. I can be like this because I finished from English Department Ahmad Dahlan University in 1998. After I finished, I continue my postgraduate in Gajah Mada University. And then now, I already finished my doctorate degree from Lathrop University in London. I'm proud to be one of the graduates from Ahmad Dahlan University. So if you want to be like me, just go and visit English Department Ahmad Dahlan University. You can be someone that is very special, that is very useful to help people learn English. So please study English in Ahmad Dahlan University, especially from the English department. I hope that you can study there very well. We will welcome you very well.
As a student, I was engaged in the world of journalism. Moreover, tourism is also an option that we might master in the department. Well, studying global economics or politics through English debating might be really fun. As a student, we're not only able to pursue education, but also I'm quite experienced as an artist by joining the theatrical community. Here, a religious activity is a very big part in developing myself into a better existence.
Welcome to the most likable universities and English education departments in town, where you can experience the serendipity of learnings, cohesive communities, high quality of education, and constructive engagements among students, lecturers, and staffs around English education departments. And it provides us with a friendly environment which connects students with accessible website, Wi-Fi partner, library, laboratories, and sophisticated technologies. It is a worth it investment for you to learn, live, and grow for a brighter future.
My name is Bradley. I graduated from Ahmad Dahlan University in 2015. Now I'm doing my master degree in Monash University, Australia. Learning in English department of Ahmad Dahlan University is one of my best learning experience ever, because it's not only provided me with challenging and applicable knowledge, but also with a lot of opportunities to develop myself, like seminars, trainings, preparation for competitions, leisure supports, and international conference.
Hi, I'm one of an English lecturer here in Institut Seni Indonesia, Yogyakarta. I have graduated from Ahmad Dahlan University, especially English Education Department, class 2003. I just want to share that I was very lucky to take English Education Department as my major, because it can support my career here in the
You. Let's start now. Are you ready, Bu Ani? Is it okay, Bu Ani? Hello? Bu Ikmi, do you hear me? Hello, Bu Ikmi? Oh. Okay. Right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, Professor Agnes.
Good morning.
And everybody, good afternoon. Here in Indonesia is afternoon. In
Good afternoon,
Philippines,
sir.
good afternoon, Mom Pino in Philippines. Good afternoon, Po. All right. In Malaysia also afternoon. Good afternoon, Dr. Badley. All right. Yeah. So, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. We have to say thank you to the God, to the Almighty God, for the chance and also for the health that has given to us. In this occasion, we have a very marvelous, very awesome, and very famous speaker. Okay. We have the Honorable Professor Agnes Kukulska Hulme. Okay. But today we have the schedule from 3 until 5 with the sequences. The first one, the introduction from me. I will inform you about the biography of our speaker in this occasion, and then we'll have the presentation from Professor Agnes, and after that we have the question and answer. And finally, we have the closing, and also pictures. We call taking pictures on the screen. Right. So before we start our activities, as usual, as a Muslim, yes, maybe some of you are Christian in Philippines. We have to start, or we have to commence by reciting basmalah together. For the Muslim, we say basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Name of God, we start our activity. May God bless us and may God give us the reward as our good deeds. Yeah, because we have to learn, we have to study, and finding knowledge, getting knowledge is our duty. Okay. So first, I would like to inform you, Professor Agnes, we have the registration until yesterday 262 participants coming from 6 countries. We have our student in Thailand. We have also our student, our master student in Philippines, and also our partner from Philippines, and also from Malaysia. In Philippines, you call Yusan. Our partner from University of Saint Anthony in Iriga City, Philippines. And some of our participants also from China, Taiwan, and Vietnam. You can see on the list of the names, maybe on the second page, we have Marilotino. We also have the Vietnam names. Yeah. So I'm very happy to inform you. This is a very good chance for us to hear from you about the mobile learning technology. All right, ladies and gentlemen, dear my colleague in Philippines and Yusan, and also Professor Agnes, let me inform you all, ladies and gentlemen, the information about the biography of Professor Agnes. Okay, her full name is Professor Agnes Kukulska Holmes.
online.
Hello. Okay, Rini, could you silence your microphone? Our guest today is a professor at IET, Institute of Educational Technology, Open University, UK. The Professor Agnes has joined this university since 1996, and she has already got 35 years of experience in teaching mobile language learning. Right. She also has published 180 papers in international journal, and also as the co-editors and also the proofreader and many things else. And she has also books, published so many books, and her index in Google Scholar, I saw 48 with the citation 12,574. It is very marvelous. Yeah, awesome. And it is maybe I cannot reach this kind of citation. So Professor Agnes was also the president of International Association of Mobile Language Learning and Services, and also editor of several computer-assisted journal. Right. So we are very happy to have Dr. and Professor Agnes to share with us the principle of mobile language learning, the procedures, the weakness, the advantage, and also some software that can be used for us here in Indonesia, in Philippines, or in Malaysia to design the mobile language learning contents for elementary school, for kindergarten, or maybe for higher school like us in the university. So I'd like to inform you, Professor Agnes, our students are almost teachers. 90% are teachers, okay? So that's why it's very useful, very beneficial for them, and will be applicable after listening to your sharing ideas. Maybe we can share also later the project. Yeah. So we need your help. So maybe we need to do some workshop for the mobile language learning later. So this is the trigger. Okay, as the trigger for our. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome, please welcome Professor Agnes Kulka Hulme, for the time, almost 2.5 hours. The time is yours, Professor.
Thank you very much. So I'm hopefully sharing my slides now, and you can see them and you can still hear me.
Yes, it's clear and we can see your slide.
Wonderful, great. So I'm really very happy to be able to join you today and to talk about my favorite topic, mobile-assisted language learning. And of course, we're doing this in extraordinary times during the pandemic. I'm still working from home, and things are not the same as before. And there are implications for the field of mobile language learning because mobility has been curtailed. Nevertheless, we find creative solutions to such problems. And I would like to, in this session, share with you something of what we do at the Open University, hopefully introduce you to some new perspectives and ideas that you'll find beneficial. So I'm from the Open University in the UK, and just trying to move on the slide, which is not moving on for some reason. There we go. The university is based in Milton Keynes in the UK, which is near London. And we are a distance learning university. So the majority of our students are doing remote learning online and on their mobile devices. And so we develop content that's suitable for learning in all kinds of settings, all kinds of contexts. Outside, indoors, at home, at work, and so on. I actually live in Stratford-upon-Avon in the UK, which is right in the middle of England. And if you may have heard of Stratford, it's where Shakespeare was born and where he went to school. So his schoolroom is there, and you can visit it. If you're ever in the UK, please do come and visit, and you'll find that a delightful place to see. So really very much of a contrast between modern education and what people used to do centuries ago. We can learn still from the past, but we've got a lot that now the technology now offers us that we can do that's entirely new. So I have a lot of objectives for this session, and we shall see how we go in terms of availability of time. But I will introduce you a little bit to the university and the Learning Futures program that I lead. The reason for that is because I think you need to understand the work that I do in that context of open education, distance education, and always looking to the future. So I'm not in a languages department, and because I'm not in a languages department, it probably means I have a slightly broader view of opportunities, and that has some advantages that come with it. I will share some knowledge from our recent projects, and importantly, I'd like to introduce different conceptions and perspectives on mobile learning, mobile-assisted language learning. I know that sometimes people come with their own preconceptions, their own ideas about what it is, what is mobile-assisted language learning, based on their experience, which may be in relation to a very specific activity or a type of technology that they have used. So I like to go broad and think about different perspectives, hopefully opening up to more ideas and possibilities. Underpinning mobile learning are different pedagogical approaches, which are so important for us to understand, because it's not just the new technology, it's a new pedagogy, or actually a series of different approaches that can be used, but that should be aligned with the whole ethos and philosophy of mobile learning. And so we will look at some of those approaches, try to raise awareness of new developments in mobile learning. The field has been around for 20 years or so. Of course, started as a research activity, and then it changed rapidly as mobile technologies became part of our daily lives. But there are constantly new developments, and so the field is changing, and we always need to look to see what's around the corner, what's new, and how we can take advantage of it. The reason we are doing all this is that teachers need to be preparing themselves for a world of digital learning. And what does that mean? So some reflection on what that means is also relevant here. Importantly, we can consider also the challenges and opportunities that have brought about by the COVID pandemic. A lot of challenges for teachers who have had to adapt their practices at short notice and often weren't prepared for that. But also some good has come out of it in terms of rethinking practices, perhaps doing things that people were thinking about doing anyway, but now is their chance to try out new things. Coming from the perspective of the pandemic, I think we're also much more aware of the importance of well-being and mental health in teaching and learning. And that is also a very prominent feature, which means that different fields of expertise in health, for example, and in care are coming together with expertise in technology and language learning. So the overall aim here is to help you reflect on your language teaching and learning practices and any innovations that you may wish to introduce, which I suppose will include mobile assisted language learning. Our session today is broken up so we start with
penilaian pengetahuan, penilaian keterampilan. Penilaian.
So we start with this lecture. We'll have a short break, and then some shorter lectures after that, and a task to think about away from the screen. So the idea being that with any kind of digital learning, indeed, I suppose it's true of any kind of
recording in progress.
Learning, we need to take some breaks, make sure that we pace ourselves and give ourselves time to process what we've learned, and also just to take some rest. So I'm going to say a little bit about students at the Open University where I'm based. So these are distance learning students, and some of the work that we do is with our students, but not exclusively. They learn flexibly, as I said, at home, at work, while traveling. They engage in their learning activities in a virtual learning environment. They're often working together in online communities and with support from their tutors, so in either face-to-face or online tutorials. And the learning, therefore, is blended in some respects, and there are strong elements increasingly of informal learning as well coming into the mix, with people using social media to connect with others and to expand their repertoire of knowledge and networks and resources. So they use the resources that we provide, which are in print and online and ebooks and mobile apps and various augmented virtual reality applications and simulations. So it's a rich mix of media that is used and enables the learning to be adapted to different capabilities that students have, their different preferences, a great diversity of students. Most of them are adult learners at all stages of their lives and all ages. So we use technology and open distance learning to reach and involve more people. And that's like a very important part of the mission, to offer free courses as well as education that people do have to pay for OU students, therefore, and also to a large extent to everyone. So we try and make many of our resources freely available, to aim to widen access to study, share our knowledge globally, see learners as knowledge partners and creators, and value informal learning, that the informal learning that people are engaging in on their mobile phones, on online platforms, and so on, and supporting them throughout their lives. So, for example, in their professional development, on-demand skills development as and when it's needed. So that's a sort of strong philosophy behind the OU, and also its social mission is paramount. Within the OU, we have the Learning Futures research and innovation program that I lead, with a wealth of activity within that program. And this is where some of our mobile language learning research is located. We say that technologies may change, but the innovations in pedagogy bring lasting benefit. So we focus on the innovations in pedagogy above all. And we have activities around citizen science, MOOC platforms and micro-credentials, intelligent assistants and chatbots. We produce an annual series of reports that you can download from our blog. And we work on designs for mobile social learning for various groups of learners. Increasingly, our interest has been in marginalized learners, in migrants, in refugees, those in low resource contexts, but also those in smart cities. So looking to the future of cities, the kinds of new opportunities that they offer in terms of a distributed technology, smart technology within the city, and how that can be harnessed for learning. So as I said, some of our more recent projects are with disadvantaged and marginalized learners. So for example, during the COVID pandemic last year, we were doing some research with higher education students in Kenya and Nepal, trying to understand their experiences. Were they able to connect online? How were the teachers managing, and so on. And we also have a project in Zambia, which is about teacher training, looking at their particular circumstances, how offline technologies can help them to be connected with each other and share resources, but without being having to be connected to the internet. And another project is with teachers in Jordan, where we are looking at the situation in refugee camps and how the educators there are developing new practices to teach the refugees, and how those how they can be supported in that work. just a little bit more detail on our latest project, which is called Reaching Out to Marginalized Populations in Under-Resourced Countries, called REMALIC, supported by the British Council. We're seeking here to define marginalization in education and identify affected communities in the 4 countries that you can see on this slide. We are collecting accounts of experiences from students, teachers, and parents. The focus is on analyzing their practices mediated by mobile technology. So English and local languages are a big focus here. It's a different situation in each context, but in all 4 contexts, the students are learning through English, at least to some extent, and it's not their first language. So there are other languages in the mix, local languages, other official languages like French, for example, in Senegal. But English is important for them, and some of the language learning is taking place through mobile technology. So we're looking at this, really the complexity of technology use, different languages, and marginalization, trying to make sense of how these learners can be better supported and what difficulties they face in order to draw out policy and pedagogical and research implications for the use of technology, English, and local languages. So this project started earlier this year and it's going to go on for another year. So hopefully I'll be able to report on our findings next year if I have that opportunity. Now, moving on to mobile language learning more specifically. Within our Learning Futures program, we've been conducting mobile learning research for a long time now. These are a couple of our more recent books. Mobile Learning, the Next Generation was edited by myself and John Traxler just a few years ago. And in that book, we set out a vision for the future of mobile learning, which is very much contextual, understanding contexts of learning. Of course, education will carry on being conducted in classrooms, but increasingly, it's also beyond the classroom in different settings and connecting those settings with the classroom. So, for example, students who are out on industrial placements or who are working to support themselves in addition to studying, or simply opportunities that present themselves when people travel, or when they're just commuting from one place to another, or in community settings outside of class. So there are lots of contexts now that we're thinking about for the next generation of mobile learning. The other book, Mobile Assisted Language Learning Across Educational Contexts, is the most recent one, published at the beginning of this year and edited by Valentina Morgana and myself. It draws on research from across the world, and it's emphasizing the ways in which teachers can learn by looking at what's happening at different stages of education. So, for example, you might be a secondary school teacher, but it's also worth looking to see how primary school education is changing and how mobile technologies are used in primary schools and vice versa. And so across the educational spectrum, so thinking about different contexts in that sense of the whole educational journey from a very young age to advanced age. And there are some very innovative ideas that may have been developed in one setting, but are equally applicable to another. So, for example, in that book, we have a case study of the use of ebooks for extended reading and the ways in which the teachers created a whole community around this extended reading and supporting the students to read, and then also to discuss and perhaps to perform some of the content from what they've read. So it's a very rich example that could be applicable to different settings. And in that example, they were bringing in also volunteers and other people into the setting. So going beyond the traditional just teacher with a class to broadening out the range of people involved in that activity. So it's quite a short book, but full of exciting examples. So I would encourage you to look at that if you can. At the heart of what we do is learner-centered innovation. And we've had this perspective for many years now, looking at everyday mobile language learning practices that the students bring with them when they enter the classroom. They already do things like recording themselves or making notes, and some of those practices can be incorporated into our teaching. So that's the starting point. So again, a few years ago, I wrote this guide for Cambridge University Press on personalization of language learning through mobile technologies, which takes this person-centered perspective. Now, we hear a lot about personalization these days, and sometimes what's meant by that is the ways in which technologies can adapt content or activities to the learner. That's going to be important in the years ahead. But it's also there's also a different way of understanding personalization, which is more fundamental to the teacher-student relationship and teachers understanding learners' practices with mobile technologies outside of class, outside of school, outside of university. Talking about those practices and trying to incorporate that into the teaching and learning. And through that process, learning a lot as well about the students, their circumstances, you know, their ability to use technology, their skills, their digital skills, any gaps in skills, because they may be proficient in using mobile technologies, but perhaps not for educational purposes, or they haven't thought of using them in certain ways. So it's very much about putting the learner at the center, but also having a dialogue with the learners. So a two-way process of developing new activities and content together. One of my PhD students has been doing very interesting work looking at how Greek adolescents are using all kinds of different resources and media in their spare time. So they're watching YouTube and they're following people on Instagram and listening to podcasts and so on, all the different things that people do in their everyday lives. So they have a lot of informal contact with English. They are in Greece, but they're learning English. And this informal contact increasingly shapes how they speak. And this is what Christina, my student, has been looking at. She's just completed her thesis, and in fact, her final viva is next week, so I'm very excited about that. So she's looking at informal communication and the use of discourse markers like so, anyway, and how those discourse markers are being incorporated into their speech, and the the perspective of the teachers on this, and how their language is developing over time. So it's a very interesting intersection of formal learning, because they are in formal classes, and the activity that's taking place outside of class. So I've talked quite a bit now about this informal activity, because it's something that particularly fascinates me and I feel is increasingly important. And it really brings us to that key question of what is mobile learning? Because it's not always classroom-based learning. A lot of it is out of class, right? In class and out of class. When mobile learning was first conceived, there were, right from the beginning, some experiments that were taking place in class, for example, around student collaboration in class on their devices. And there were also a lot of projects focusing on outdoor activity, usually field trips or trips to museums, art galleries, and learning in that way. Now there's a richer repertoire of settings and contexts that are being talked about. So that there are different scenarios, I suppose we could say. There's still very important research going on about how technology can support learning in class. The emphasis increasingly on collaboration, cooperation, encouraging dialogue through the use of technology, and with technology, so working together. Also, the way in which sometimes those who need additional support can use their technology to get that support, looking up words or phrases or getting additional information. So, if, for example, if a lecture is in English and English is not their first language, they could be checking things on their phone. Of course, in some schools that's possible. In other schools, it's forbidden. So there are different practices across the world, and they keep changing. Even so, for example, in the UK, some schools allow phones, other schools don't allow phones. Some started off allowing them and now ban them, and vice versa. So it's a constantly changing landscape. And that's a whole discussion in its own right, because there are pros and cons, of course, and depends on things like discipline in the class and the children's ages, the task design, and so forth. Many considerations there. And then we have all the out-of-class activity, which, for example, as illustrated on this slide, might include actually taking a whole class outside. I think the picture I'm using there is from Japan, where a teacher has taken a class out into the woods, and so they're learning about nature. But they could also be having a language class, which involves talking about nature. So instead of connecting their learning with their surroundings and making it more enjoyable, healthier as well, especially if the weather's good, and using technology, but in a measured way, in combination with a healthy environment. And the middle picture is illustrating the ways in which a small group of young people who are agriculture students are trying to understand some information about the plants they're looking at, and they're connecting with some experts externally. So they're asking questions of an expert and getting some answers in situ, in that situation. Again, it's a generic example, but could be relevant to language learning, communicating in a different language, using the resources of the environment to solve problems in the target language. And the third picture is somebody learning at home in an informal home setting where perhaps she is accessing resources that are entirely her own choice, doing things that are mainly for pleasure, but also learning the language along the way. And this links to the previous discussion around learner-centered designs that focus on learners' preferences and their current practices. A little bit more about the benefits of teaching and learning outdoors. I like this example from a Mandarin language teacher who posted a blog post about this and said that human beings were not designed to spend hours each day surrounded by brick walls. And so she's a very keen proponent of outdoor language teaching. She illustrates this with some activities undertaken by students learning Mandarin Chinese, learning in a wooded area. So the children are describing the woodland around them, their environment. They learn words to do with texture, their feelings, smells and sounds. They also make Chinese characters from sticks and stones, so actually using the resources in the environment. They were also creating some banners to highlight pollution in the environment, and made a video in English and Mandarin to share with students in China. So this is such a rich combination of, I think, of activities and media, and bringing together language learning with sort of important contemporary social issues, getting people very much engaged in learning with technology, but also with other resources. Much of mobile language learning is about connecting learning and connecting learners. They could be the same learners in and out of class, so helping them to continue learning beyond the classroom, or connecting different communities, as in the examples that we discussed. So connecting, say, a rural community with another community that's in another rural area, or in an urban area. So that sort of idea of making connections, I think, is very central to our thinking around mobile assisted language learning. Cooperation and collaboration are key. These are such important skills for today's world. And if technology can help us develop those skills, then that would be a great achievement. The learners can be co-located, or they can be remote from each other. These are other projects that my students have been undertaking. Pinsuda actually just completed her Ph.D, and she was looking at cooperation among preschool children using iPads. Not much work has been done in that area. The children aren't really able to collaborate, but they can cooperate, and they can learn to cooperate using the technology. Of course, parents are often concerned about use of technology at a young age, so this was an interesting project to see, how the children are actually cooperating around different tasks using iPads. And then the other one is about remote collaboration among language students in diverse public spaces. So in this case, the students were in two different places in the UK outside of class. One chose to be in a cafe, for example, and the other one in a heritage museum. and they are talking about their environments and what they're learning in those environments. So a little bit more about that one. Helen Lee is the researcher. She completed this work a couple of years ago now, so her thesis is available. So these were collaborative language tasks that she designed for the students, carried out by pairs of students, each student in a different country or location. On those sessions, they were using Skype to connect with each other and to talk. These sessions were video recorded, and afterwards they reflected on their communication challenges together with their teacher. And her particular focus was the role of gestures in that communication. So she was actually capturing their gestures, helping them to reflect on how they were using gesture to communicate. Gesture is important in communication, but somehow constrained by the use of technology, because you can't always see the whole person, you can't always see all the gestures. So a very interesting investigation. The tasks were designed for the students, but they could adapt the tasks. So learning in such environments mean things don't always go according to plan, and the learners may need to adapt the task or sort of go with the flow depending on what's happening around them. So for example, if they're in a cafe, what might happen, suddenly some music comes on, they can no longer hear each other, of course. So there are distractions like that, but also unexpected things happen that might be learning moments, beneficial to them, where they realize, oh, I'd like to be able to say such and such, but I'm not sure how to say it. So this kind of very, very much a context-specific embedded learning, I think is very exciting. It's authentic learning. John Traxler and I have written about this in our publications. We've written about authentic learning that involves real-world problems and projects that are relevant and interesting to the learner. Based around authentic tasks, students are engaged in exploration and inquiry, and they have opportunities for social interaction, social discourse. It's also personalized learning, meaning that it recognizes the learner's diversity, differences, individuality in the way that the learning is supported, developed, delivered. There are different learning preferences and approaches, and the social, cognitive, and physical difference and diversity that we find amongst our learners. So that's personalized learning. And then we have situated learning as another approach. Here, mobile devices are seen as supporting context-specific and immediate situated learning. And so here, the key design considerations are that there should be situation-relevant content. Now, that can be delivered either on the mobile device or in a more conventional way through a paper-based activity or just being told what to do. Situated support and planning how learners will capture and share their experience either in situ or afterwards. So in the example that we just saw, the students were recorded, but they could also be capturing their experience themselves. And so depending on the design of the task. We have done a lot of work with migrants in European cities. So much of our work has been looking at how smartphones can support migrants' language learning in their daily lives, understanding their authentic needs in communication as they move around the city. Developing the capacity to be more self-directed is another important strand. So we've talked a lot so far about collaboration, but I think self-direction is regulation as well are very important concepts. Supporting groups and communities to learn and enjoy learning together is another strand to this, using several languages. So incorporating the language resources they already have into the language learning designs and experiences. I'm not going to go into this in any detail, but I've in the past talked a lot about the Mazeltov project that we conducted some years ago, where we designed a suite of tools and services, including language lessons, translation, social forum, and personalized recommendations, an integrated app with all these services. And there's still a lot that you can learn from that through existing publications. As these images illustrate on the slide, people were learning together in pairs or in larger groups. And I think that social aspect came through very strongly, both the physical social interaction and online social interaction, which was part of the app design. So they were learning from and in the world around them. And the app that was developed for this project and another project called Salsa, very much focused on the world around you. So, for example, rail travel, the sights and sounds that are around you, the conversations that you're likely to have, you know, whether it be at the station or with other passengers. Right here, so a mix of media. You could listen, you could rehearse conversations you were going to have, and so on. The Salsa project included experiments in location-based learning in a smart city type setting, where there were beacons positioned in various locations around the town of Milton Keynes. And as the students moved around the town, language lessons would be triggered on their phone. So English language learners from the local adult continuing education center took part in this, and they moved around the city and were able to download lessons when they reached particular locations. So this was very much location-based, and we monitored their experiences in that scenario. So I've talked about various projects. What do we understand about mobile learning strengths and potential? Quite a lot, actually. This slide tries to summarize some of what I've been talking about: the rapid communication possibilities, support, collaboration, access to trusted peers and facilitators and experts, personal goal setting around one's own interests and self-direction, self-regulation, learning in life and work and across different contexts and settings, location-relevant experiences, and increasingly media creation and sharing by the learners. So harnessing that spontaneity of use across different contexts. So over 2 decades of research on mobile learning and language learning, what do we now know? So this is at a very high level. Mobile learning is flexible and person-centered. It enables more people to participate in education. It connects with individuals' interests and needs, empowers learners, makes them more self-directed, but also gives them opportunity to collaborate with others. The second point is about technology. Mobile phones and tablets are, of course, widely used, but we shouldn't make assumptions. Devices, some that people own, may be basic, they may be shared with others. Internet connectivity is not always good. It may be costly, it may be variable, not reliable, and digital skills may be scarce. So we shouldn't make assumptions. We should check out what is the real situation amongst our learners. And the third point about mobile communication being increasingly multilingual. Yes, we're probably learning a new language, for example, English or Spanish or Chinese, but in the mix are our existing language resources and the multilingual communication that takes place on social media. So conversations are in more than one language. People often switch between languages. Educational resources are now available in more than one language. Translation tools make it possible to translate resources. And there are so many tools now for translation and cross-cultural communication. So we need to look at language learning in this light. In the latest book, which I mentioned earlier on in this talk, I contributed a concluding chapter which talks about the 5 latest trends in mobile-assisted language learning, which are illustrated on this slide. These are trends that can be seen in the case studies in the book. So they very much emerge from the research and the practices described in the book. As you can see, there is an emphasis on, if you start at the top left-hand corner of that diagram, enjoyment and perception of personal gains. All the designs are about making sure the learner is enjoying the language learning and gaining something from it. There's a multiplicity of technologies, methods, and modalities within each case study. The learners are probably not using just one technology, but a number of them, and the different methods and media are in the mix. There's frequent interaction and reflection in the designs. And there is unfettered flow of information. Unfettered meaning without constraint. Information, systems are designed and activities are designed in such a way that the learning is more seamless than before. And we're trying to break down barriers between different communities, between home and school, between people's capabilities in terms of their language and knowledge. So it's all of these are very rich notions. And I would encourage you to engage with that and see if you can bring some of these key themes or trends into your future practice and your research. Increasingly, there are technologies for instant translation, which we're going to have to take account of as well. So it started maybe 2-3 years ago with the earbuds for instant translation that were introduced, and experimental systems that enable the speaker's vocal characteristics to be retained in translated speech. So very much sort of cutting edge research that impacts on translation activity and translation teaching, and makes us rethink our approach to how we support communication. Just very quickly, a couple of more slides about the future, which I'll pick up a bit later if we have the opportunity.
Regular for answering.
Yes,
the
that's right. That's right. Yeah, I've got just 3 more slides. So yeah,
all right,
we're nearly there. That's right. And so so another key development are the intelligent assistants that we're seeing on our phones and on smart speakers. These can perform different tasks and services. So they're part of a sort of widening repertoire of different technologies, increasingly smart devices that we're going to be using in our language learning. And the beyond that, of course, is the whole emerging world of smart or intelligent assistants that have a more human form, or other sort of personifications, and as they become more human, then various questions start to be asked about the kind of relationship that we have with these technologies. For example, whether they can be trusted to help us in desirable ways. So as we develop the smart assistants, we will be looking at how these technologies can help us in, for example, our motivation, goal setting, habit formation, memory training, and so on. All these different aspects that are shown on this slide, ranging from kind of emotional support and confidence boosting in language learning, through to monitoring the progress, giving opportunities for conversation, practice, and so on. So that's the end of this lecture. I will take questions.
All right, thank you so much.
This slide just shows, it just gives a link to our open research online repository. This is an open repository where you can find our publications. If you search on my name there, you'll find all my publications. You can download them all there. So I just thought I'd put that on the slide.
All right, thank you so much for the thorough information, starting from definition. Mobile language learning goes to the approach that anchored the theories. We have learner-centered, innovation, authentic learning, contextual learning, personal learning, situated learning, and so on. And goes on to the application that you already provide. We have Mesoton, and then I will around you, and salsa. And you also already explained, yeah? Professor Agnes also explained to us the mapping of the research, the trend of the research in the world today, and the latest development. All right, without repeating the information, I would like to invite the question from the participants, or maybe you can type on our chat box. Let me see the first questions on the chat box. We got, okay, from Yogyantoro. Thank you for the time. Good morning, Ms. Agnes. Yeah, excellent and inspirational. I like to ask question. The world with digital learning has arrived in 21st century, which has become a learning solution in the midst of COVID-19. Somehow, there is a negative impact of the present of mobile learning. How could we deal with this mobile learning impact? Yeah, that's the question, ma'am, in the chatting box.
Right, thank you very much for that question. So it goes on to suggest that the negative impacts are, like, for example, emergence of hyperactivity, antisocial behavior, all those kinds of negative behaviors, I suppose, and impacts on students' emotional interactions and development and so on, and addiction, gadget addiction. Yeah, I think these are real problems. These are real challenges, undoubtedly. And the younger the students, the more we are concerned with these issues, because people haven't developed their ability to regulate their emotions at a young age, and they do get very drawn into the world of the technology, which has both negative impacts both on their physical well-being and their emotional well-being in some cases. And it's true that we didn't have this problem when mobile assisted language learning was first starting to be developed. So it's come upon us, and we didn't plan it that way.
Yeah.
So but it is a challenge we need to deal with. So we need to try and help the learners. It's something that has to be incorporated into our teaching, right?
Yeah.
As teachers, we have that responsibility to help the learners manage this amazing resource that's at their fingertips, and make them realize that there are negative and positive aspects to it. Help them to reflect on what's happening, rather than just being drawn into it. To step back, to talk about it in class, to talk about it with the teacher, or with their friends, and not let it become such a negative influence. Find ways to counteract the negatives.
All right. Oh, thank you. Oh, my voice double. Sorry. All right. Another question. Hello, can you hear me? Prof?
Yeah. Yes. Right.
All right. Another
Right.
question from our participant in the YouTube. Yeah, because some of our members cannot join us from this link, and
Right.
then you join by YouTube. Right. The question is from Ulan. Yeah. Okay. Would you please explain your student research about the effect of informal communication through technology on discourse marker? Oh, she is very interested. Your PhD student, ma'am.
Yes. Right. Yeah. So yes, it was very interesting research. It was longitudinal, so lasting several months, and the students were contacted at 4 different points during the year, during the whole academic year. And during those 4 points, they were asked about what they had been doing, and also they were engaged in some dialogue, so that there could be data captured about their use of the actual language at different points in time. So it was quite a rich data collection activity. And if you want to know more about it, get in touch. I mean, I could put you in touch with the student. She would be delighted to tell you more. She has submitted her thesis now, so we can share some information with you.
All right. There's another question, man. Okay, from Amel. I want to ask, what do you think about the development of translational technology? For instance, in the year 2020.
Yeah.
Amel, yes.
Yeah, it's I suppose when you first hear about more sophisticated translation technology, it can feel like a threat to the teacher, because what's the point in teaching languages if there's all this sophisticated translation? So that can be like an initial reaction. But then you have to think about how that can be incorporated into the teaching. And what are the appropriate times to use technologies like that? They don't negate the need for language teaching and learning, but there will be times when they are useful tools, when people don't know the language and they do need to communicate, and it can facilitate business transactions or communication in other settings. So it has its place. But also any translation technology is fascinating in its own right, when we kind of apply it, and then we can see that it produces imperfect results, and it's a good learning task to analyze, say, automatic translation, comparing it with a more sophisticated human translation, and see what are the differences, and why did the differences occur? Where are the misunderstandings occurring? Where are the ambiguities in language? So it's a really good exercise in its own right, I think. And I'm sure we'll see more of those tools coming along. I mean, they were incorporated into the Mazeltov app, so people would be, now it's sort of a commonplace, but at the time it was a new thing to be able to take a picture of some text and have that translated. So again, it's connecting with how would you actually use that translation in different settings. You're looking at a book in a different language. To be able to point your phone at that book and immediately have a translation is just is amazing, isn't it? So it's like what are the best uses? I think is the way to look at it.
Okay, all right, Prof. Another question from Santiano from Siliwangi. Siliwangi University is outside of our university. Is asking about what do you think, Mom, the mobile learning, if we relate it to humanizing education. We relate mobile learning to the humanization of education.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe you can clarify, ma'am, the concerns.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the question exactly is asking, but I can imagine what it's asking, because there are concerns around technology sort of getting in the way of human to human interaction. So this may be what the person is asking about. And we do have to be vigilant, don't we? That we don't lose what is very valuable about human interactions. But at the same time, I think, as illustrated through some of the examples I gave, the technology supports collaboration and communication. It helps us connect with people we wouldn't otherwise be able to connect with. So in that sense, it's moving us forward in the human project of better relations and better communication globally. Not without difficulties, of course, because it's a new thing for everybody, and some of those opportunities are abused. But if used in the correct way, I think it can be and should be designed to support human communication, the best of human communication.
Yeah, I do agree with you, ma'am, because if you use technology in separate manner without anchoring to the teaching or pedagogical aspect, we can lose human interaction and we'll become a robot. All right. Okay, now we have one more question, ma'am, from Fitria Maysara. It's insightful lecturing. I would like to ask Prof. Hulme, since the mall, mobile language learning is ubiquitous around ELT. How it stand for ELT student in expanding circle, like Indonesia? All right. So we have inner circle. We also have expanded circle and extended circle, like what we got from Kacharuman. We have the native speaker, UK, American, Australian inner circle. They are native speaker. And how about for us in Indonesia, like Indonesia, we do not belong to inner circle. We do not belong to the extended circle of the English language speaker. But we belong to expanding because we are not colonialized by UK or America or Australia. Yeah. Like India, Malaysia, or Singapore.
Yeah. Okay, I wasn't familiar with this concept, so that's very interesting. But I mean, what I would say is that mobile language learning actually has raised this issue. Has brought it into a discussion and debate around, what kinds of English are we learning and using, which varieties, which types of pronunciation are desirable, acceptable, and so on. And of course, which ones are understood by the emerging technologies and which ones are not so easily understood. So I think it has actually made us reflect on this issue more than before, which is a good thing. And this whole approach of seeing learners as being diverse also links in with that. So understanding that we shouldn't all be trying to speak in the same way. It's good to have diversity, variety, and that's legitimate and a good thing. But you know, that's not always easy to accommodate, because examination systems sometimes you know, continue to promote certain Englishes over others, let's say. So it's not easy to fix in some contexts, but it's a good thing to try and do.
Yes, I saw your researches in the local culture, maybe the use of a mobile phone in teaching English by using local culture, local ethnicity, and so on. I did find in your paper. Right.
Dari mana nak? Lanjut. Oh, pintar.
Hello, could you tell him, please? All right. Sorry, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, in another questions. We have some more questions. Hello, Santena. All right. It seems to be no more no more question in the chat box, or you can directly, hello, ladies and gentlemen, you can ask directly to the Professor Agnes through your microphone. Please unmute your microphones, and then we can get the interactions. All right, dear. Okay. Because in the chat box, I didn't find any questions. We already answered all. We have it stand for ELT. All right. Then the next one is about technology and translations. And the previous one is about the discourse. All right. And then the last one is about human and computer relationships. Yeah. Then, yeah. Right. Now, maybe we'd like to share to our audience, ma'am, the software, the software that available online for the designing the mobile language learning. How could we share to our participants, because some of them are teachers? Maybe you can give some tips, or maybe it's addresses for free. We call free applications, not difficult to make, or maybe without understanding the computer language, or maybe we can use application or something else that's easy for our student, our teacher to design and to deliver the lesson to the students.
Yeah, it's an important consideration, isn't it? In one of our guides, the guide that we published for the British Council, there is at the end a whole kind of section dedicated to different kinds of apps that can be used and that are free and so on. So that's worth a look.
So we can get easily from British Council website or from your website, ma'am.
That's right. You can, from both actually. It's on both. It's called Mobile Pedagogy for English Language Teaching. It's that guide, and at the back of it, it's there are some suggestions and resources. I think increasingly people are trying to use WhatsApp and Facebook as generic tools that the learners already use. I think you use Line in your part of the world, I believe. So, you know, those sort of social media applications that students are already familiar with are certainly a useful tool, because both the teachers and the learners don't have to learn something new. They can use what's already, available. So I think it depends on your approach, whether you want to, develop something new or use existing tools. There are also just so many mobile apps now that can be downloaded and used. Again, you don't have to use the whole app with everything in it, but you could maybe be selective and incorporate it into an activity. So have the learner use something within the app and then complement that with another activity that you develop. So I think thinking about it in that way is also helpful. I think it's also quite context dependent. What do your students already know and use that will be easy for them, and what's available for free in your countries. You could be in touch maybe with local startup companies who are developing apps. More of that should take place. Startups working together with teachers to develop apps, I think is a good approach. So that's another possibility for you, I think.
I see. All right. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite from our colleague from Malaysia, Dr. Intan. Have you got any question, Dr. Intan?
Hi, Prof.
Okay, Dr. Intan, the time is yours, Dr. Intan. Yes, Prof. This is our friend from UITM Malaysia.
I'm currently writing some papers involving the issue of humanizing mobile learning. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. All right. So I'm wondering if I could contact you later for some kind of assistance, maybe.
Right. Could you say more about what you mean by humanizing it? Because yes, I tried to answer the question before, but I wonder what your particular angle is, what your perspective is on this.
I guess because in Malaysia, up to recently, we have issues involving students who are constantly complaining about being stressed, learning online. Okay. So when we try to develop few mobile application for learning tenses, for example, okay. So one of the feedback we received was that they were expecting more interaction, not just plain videos, that we have included in the mobile app, right?
Yes.
So so one of the things that come to mind is that whenever we create any kind of mobile app, or whenever we create websites for learning, one of the things we came about is that there must be some sort of interaction to begin with, where we might need to include our own videos with our own face there, what I'm saying, like a live video of the lecturer themselves, rather than just incorporating videos from Powtoon or Doodly. The students wants to see our faces in the mobile app.
I see. Yes,
so that's
of course.
one of the criteria of humanizing factors that we sort of gathered from our research.
Yes, I see. Yes, that's a common comment from students, that they want to see the teacher and they want to see other learners. So yes, that is very common, I think, and just something that we are used to as human beings. We want to see the people we interact with if we can. But I think what you said also touches on thinking around, how are you going to make sure that the learner is active rather than passive? So that's to do with the whole task design. And what you wrap around the application. The application is there, but what do they do before, during, and after, so as to make it a more active experience. And also I like to think of the mobile phone as a kind of, a device for capturing your experiences, your reflections, and so on. Taking photos, making recordings, and by doing so, the learner is active, and so I think that also makes it a more just a better experience for them.
Yes, I get you. Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Intan. Maybe Dr. Roslina, have you got any concern, Dr. Roslina? No? Dr. Ani, our lecturers from UID, please. Before we come to the end of our meeting for today, please raise your hand or unmute your microphone so Professor Agnes will listen to your questions. Bu Ani? No? I think no questions. Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Bambang. Hello, Dr. Bambang. Bambang Dwi Pratolo. Hello, Pak. No questions.
No questions, no comments.
No comment. All right.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting also for me to hear about, your context, your settings, and the challenges that you face in your particular settings. So thank you for all those contributions that have kind of mentioned, your challenges. And I think teaching at a distance, is if it's new to you, it's very challenging. For us, being a distance education university, it seems more kind of.
Pak Akmal, Argi raise hands.
All right.
Would like to ask
questions, please, Argi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Pak Akmal?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hello. Good morning, Prof. Okay, my name is Argi. Currently, I work in startup company that provides 10 language courses for Indonesian. And I think that is very interesting that we have same experience that you have shared about the mobile learning and compared to the outdoor activity. And so we combine the mobile learning, language mobile learning with the kind of motoric activity. For example, for Mandarin Chinese class, we create a motoric activity for the kindergarten student with Play-Doh, if you know Play-Doh, to create Chinese letter. So after they get the materials from the tutor about how to write Chinese letter, and the student will create the Chinese letter using the Play-Doh. And another motoric activity is that we create the materials to students doing the motoric activity in their home or their room. For example, when we teach vocabulary for food, it consists of vocabulary and also the adjective. We ask the student to find the food in their home, and then after that they back to the meeting in front of the camera, and they deliver their food and also the adjective of the food. So that's kind of the combination that we try to implement. And my question is, do you have any other things or tips or ways to make mobile learning seems real, effective, and communicative? Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, go on, Prof.
I like the example you've described because, as you say, it involves physical activity as well as using an app. So I think anything that so we start with a task design, don't we, and actually think about how what we want to achieve in the task. So that's our primary driver for the activity. What do we want to achieve in terms of communication, for example, and and then the technology is just in the mix. It's one of the things that we can use. But for example, taking photographs is a good way for people to engage with their emotions, because they may take photographs of things that are meaningful to them in some way, or they may use photographs that evoke memories of experiences. So there's a whole emotional dimension that can be incorporated into tasks just by using images. And similarly, video or audio recordings, they have that emotional kind of dimension built in almost, and can certainly be exploited for such tasks. So I hope that's the kind of thing you meant in your question.
Okay.
Thank you, Prof. So starting with the design, the objective, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yes, that's right. And we sometimes get caught up in the actual app rather than realizing that there's a bigger picture in terms of the the communicative objectives.
So it means, Mom, we also need a storyboard.
Yeah, we do. Let's use storyboards. Yeah.
Storyboard is our starting point, Mr. Argi. What you are going to do,
they're very good.
What the background, what color, and also what task or student. I mean, a question from our colleague from Taiwan or Thailand, Patam Wade, Taksa School. Hello, Mr. Patam Wade. Where are you, Mr. Wade?
I'm from Bangkok. Good afternoon, everybody. Could you hear me?
From Bangkok, please.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for letting me participate this maybe session. And I would like to say thank you for all your wonderful all of your staff and including professors, because I can get many insightful about the techniques and tips from materials that you show, and I like to maybe adjust it to my class because I need to get back to my on site starting this November.
I see. Are you a teacher? Are you a teacher?
Yeah, I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher, sir. Yeah, doctor. Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Thanks a lot. I got no questions.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah.
My pleasure. Yes, Prof. Agnes, we come to the end of our session for today. Thank you so much for the insight, sharing ideas and also experience, including the theories that anchored of our mobile language learning. We do hope our master student got inspiration, and we like your
Recording
motto.
stopped.
The changes of technology always change, but innovation keep running on. All right. So thank you again, and we close our meeting in the most way by reciting Hamdalah altogether. Alhamdulillah.
We need to have photo first before we really close. Yeah.
Okay,
please everyone, we switch on the camera.
And say cheese.
We'll count.
Okay.
There are 3 slides. Okay.
Mr. Akmal, I hope you can run another event because I raised my hand, but too late.
Pak Rifai, you want to say something?
Yeah,
I don't know, but he already closed the meeting.
Okay. We'll take the picture.
Okay, take a picture.
1, 2, 3. Slide 1.
Okay.
We go to slide 2. 1, 2, 3. Slide 3. Slide 3, please.
3.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
All right. Maybe we got from Pak Rifai. What is your question, Pak Rifai?
Okay. Okay. Actually, all right. Thank you for giving the last chance. Maybe. Prof. Agnes. In 2010, I already tried to learn about mall, and now it's already before pandemic. And 2 years ago, we are in the pandemic. What I want to ask is, before pandemic, the use of mobile learning for education is rising and become significant. now it becomes highly becomes higher and more intensive in the pandemic period. What I want to ask you is, in the following years, what can mobile learning contribute more after in the pandemic periods? Because I think this is the golden time for mobile learning to give to show its significance to learning. But what happens next after maybe pandemic time over? Do you think mobile learning will be still significant, or already maybe people go back to manual and feel enough with the technology in mobile learning?
Okay, thank you. It's about mapping, ma'am, the trend for the next years, maybe 5 more years after the COVID. Could you please answer, ma'am, in a few?
Yeah.
Because
Well, I think technology will keep evolving, and so we're going to see much more in terms of augmented reality, for example, being used, intelligent assistants, and so on. So I think the technology will continue to engage us and provide new opportunities. At the same time, I think what we've learned in the pandemic times is the importance of well-being. And so I think some of the applications will perhaps be more cognizant of the need to support well-being alongside learning. And it's also drawn our attention to inequalities amongst learners. So again, I think maybe some of the research will focus on that. I hope it will, to try and right some of those inequalities. So on the one hand, the technologies are becoming more sophisticated, but on the other hand, we need to find ways to make them more available and accessible and less expensive and so on to those who are missing out currently. So I think, we've learned a lot actually, and I'm very optimistic about the future. Technologies will change, but the new pedagogical approaches will prevail.
And innovation will come. All right, Rifai, thank you so much for your last comment and last questions, and also thank you to Prof. Agnes for the very insight courses, and we do hope someday we can invite you to come to Indonesia to give lectures or maybe workshops in a real condition.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
Yeah, we do hope this pandemic will come soon over, and we will come back.
It will, yeah.
All right, so everybody, thank you so much for joining our this one is kind of the academic activities. It's beginning of our courses for our new students, and also thank you so much for the joining from outside of Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Bangkok, Malaysia, and also to our partner in Philippines. And thank you also to our academic staff in the undergraduate programs, and also to our technicians from YouTube. And actually is recorded, ma'am, in the YouTube channels. Yeah, so everybody can watch later, and they can make a very good reflection for their future research and teaching. Right, so we have come to the end. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, thank you,
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmad.
Ani Susanti, don't forget.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure seeing you all. Thank you.
Ma'am Agnes,
Thank you for
maybe
all.
after this, is it okay if I give some chat or email
Yes,
you?
yes, you can email me. Yeah, you can
Okay,
email me
thank
if
you
you
so
want to
much.
keep in touch. Okay, yeah. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
memanfaatkan